Hiking in the fall and winter brings on a whole new set of challenges. And I'm not talking about snow and ice and inclement weather. What I'm talking about are windstorms. The area I'm hiking in today, if you can see behind me, was just obliterated with this major storm that came through a couple of days ago. We had winds up to 100 miles an hour. And these forests, this time of year when all the leaves are off the trees, but things haven't really set in for the winter, are very, very susceptible to damage from windstorms. If you find that you're hiking in a dense forest, one of the biggest concerns should be tree branches falling or even trees falling on your trail. It couldn't just be dangerous, it could be catastrophic if you're caught unprepared. There are some key safety steps that you should always follow when out on a hike, and particularly when you're hiking in a time that could have some inclement weather issues. First and foremost, before you start any hike, check the weather forecast. Now, I know the reports aren't perfect, but they do give you a great indication of what you could potentially expect out on your hike. Don't just look for the day's forecast, but look for the next couple of days' forecast. And that'll indicate any weather patterns coming into the area or changes that might be coming up soon. Based off of the weather reports, you might need to either alter your hike or just cancel it entirely. The last thing you want to do is be caught out in a storm and a situation like this where the whole area has just been wiped out with trees falling across the trail. This would have been dangerous and deadly if I was out here during the storm. Wind from storms isn't your only concern. There's also going to be river surge that happens after a storm. Typically within 12 to 24 hours of a major storm, you'll see a major rise in the levels of rivers and streams. So if you're hiking near a river, keep that in mind. The trail that was there the last time you hiked might not be there on this route. Just last year on this same trail, this was a river crossing. But there was such a major storm last year in this area that the trees were knocked down, completely wiped out any opportunity or potential option for getting across the river here. And we're already starting to see some river surge after the storm earlier this week. Heavy winds tend to be far more extreme at higher elevations. If the trail you're on is above the tree line, be prepared for some additional gusts, even in a calm day. Now, if a storm surge comes on, you're going to want to do everything you possibly can to get to a lower elevation as quickly and safely as possible. And that's why it's always good to know your route before you go. Take that time and effort, study your map, study your route, and be prepared to make some on-the-fly changes. It's always the best practice to study your map and know your route before you head out on your adventure. You never know when you're going to find that your route has to change, and if you don't have a backup plan, you could be caught off guard. For example, the trail behind me is supposed to be there, but it's not there today. I'm going to assume that this is part of the storm damage, and now I need to find an alternative route. Luckily, I do know that if I backtrack about a half a mile, I can drop down to a lower trail that's going to get me to the same destination. But if I didn't know my route and didn't have my map, I could be in a world of hurt. So before I get too far along, I guess I need to throw in that shameless plug for the channel also. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by and checking me out. I try and upload new content every Wednesday. Some weeks it is a hit and miss, but I'm getting more consistent with that schedule. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, I hope you consider doing so. Try and avoid hiking close to ledges or cliff edges as much as possible. A gust of wind could come along and push you right off the edge of that cliff before you even realized what was happening. If you know that your hike is going to take you along a route that is close to a large cliff, look for an alternative option or be prepared in the event that it's going to be additionally windy and more challenging. One great way to counteract a lot of these challenges is to hike with trekking poles. I'm not a big trekking pole fan most of the year, but in a windstorm, it is amazing the extra stability that a trekking pole can give you. I should also add that not only do you want to avoid cliffs, but also you should be avoiding anything that's going to put you up against a cliff face or hillside. During a heavy windstorm, trees could be pushed down off that cliff, and it could cause debris to fall on top of you. And needless to say, you probably shouldn't try any climbing during a heavy winter storm either. And above all else, if you just remember that hiking during a winter storm is not the time for heroics or exploring. This is not a time for bushwhacking or trailblazing. Stick to the path, follow your designated route, and above all else, be safe and make good choices when you're out there on your adventure. So until next time, folks, I hope to see you out there on the trail soon. Let's go for a walk.